Welcome to another day and another day of Dose of Did You Know? And with me today is an amazing man. Joe, how are you doing today?
You know, I'm doing well, fighting through my own struggles in my own way, but I am blessed to be here. I'm excited to enjoy another beautiful day in Seattle, and I'm excited to be here. So thank you.
Joe was my personal tour guide in Seattle. Like, how lucky am I? That's how we met, actually. We met through somebody who I was there to do some stuff, and they're like, this guy Joe we're gonna connect you, and you're gonna talk, and he's gonna pick you up, and don't worry, get in his car. No, that's not how it went, but basically
sounds like Seattle.
I'm like, okay, yeah, this is great. No, but he showed me around Seattle, and we had so much fun, and we met new people like Mike Flynn together. We did a bunch of fun stuff. But who is Joe? Tell the world, because I got my own one-on-one of who Joe is. So tell everybody.
You know, that's a great question, because I'm often asking myself the same thing. Who is Joe? Who am I? It's something that, in my mindfulness training, I do ask. But really, when it comes to who I am, I'm a person who's curious. I'm a person who's always trying to find a better way. I'm a person who's always trying to become the best version of myself. I'm not perfect. At a lot of times, I go through things hoping it's the right way to do it, but I end up learning in the process. I'm a former Apache pilot. I spent a career in the military, did 17 years before my kidneys decided I needed to quit or retire me. Yep, they failed on me, so I had to retire a little bit early. But from there, what I've really come to see who I am is I'm a person who's willing to take on a challenge, and I'm a person who's willing to find a way through a challenge. And life's filled with a lot of those challenges, and I'm just learning how to live and learning how to be comfortable in my own skin and enjoy the life around me with the beautiful people that I meet, especially on those random adventures in Seattle. So,
there are some you would never know in Seattle. You don't know.
You just don't know.
There is some fun stuff out there. I had no idea. And Travis is here. Travis is a great friend. He has Oscar Mike Radio. He's out of Boston. And Travis, Joe did not meet Russell because they cross path. You didn't meet Russell. He's the Vietnam vet that was out there. No, you didn't. No. But it was that same trip where, but I want to go back a little bit, because you talk about finding out who you are through your life. And it's this constant, I think we were just talking about it before, it's constant because we're constantly changing. So, tell me a little bit, or tell everybody a little bit. I love your story about when you were younger and how you were perceived and told you were. And then you end up being this massive badass Apache helicopter, because his stories, I can say that he's badass. I'm putting it out there. I think so, at least.
Thank you.
Yeah. You did that. You're badass in so many other ways. But talk about that, because that is huge. We get stuck with these labels as a kid, and it's not who we are.
No. Growing up, it was an interesting experience for me. I struggled in school. I didn't learn how to read until I was in 7th grade. Nobody knew why. Parents honestly thought I was lazy. And there's probably something to do with that. But the real fact is I was dyslexic. I wasn't diagnosed dyslexic until I was, 3 years ago. But
3 years ago.
Yeah, I went back to college. So I'm in college right now, and I'm struggling in college, and I'm like, what is going on? I'm spending all this time in these books, and I'm just not picking it up. So I went for some testing, and they started asking me about, when you're reading, do lines move? Or do you, all these different questions. And when I'm reading, lines like to shift on me on the pages, which is not an easy way to read a book. And so
not at all.
Yeah. But see, I didn't know that as a kid. When I was a kid, I had no clue. I just thought this was normal. It was a struggle. And so I'm fighting through this. Grades went downhill. High school, I got a 1.9 GPA. I graduated with that. All my peers were just my peers were not very nice to me in a lot of ways. And so I thought I was a failure. I thought I was stupid. I thought I wasn't going to become anything. And so I join the military because it was either live under a bridge or get in the military and do something with your life.
Mm-hmm.
From there, it was just hard. It was working as hard as I could. I got promoted to E6 in 4 years. I was a forward observer initially in the military, and it was that, you know, you're faced with a challenge, you're faced with a barrier, and you do something with that barrier. You don't let the barrier define.
Oh, we lost him. He'll come back. And Travis, I'm going to have him answer that question for you. But I'll go on a little bit about Joe. So yeah, I'm very curious. So Travis questions that we'll have. Oh, here he comes. Hold on. Never mind. I'll go on a little bit about Joe, but nope, you're back. Travis does have a question. How did you fly the Apache with the integrated helmet with dyslexia? Can you talk about that? Travis is like,
yeah, no, that's totally fine. Honestly, at the time, I didn't know. And so I found different ways, different key things to key off of. I checked myself 3 times and everything I did. It was a very hard. And with the integrated helmet, you're talking about the eyesight down. It's you've got all your visual information in your eye, and you pick up the cues. You look and you learn you look for things that remind you. You've got your speed vectors. You've got your numbers, your altitude, etc. And so that wasn't really the problem. For me, it's when stuff moves. It's not switching it. Like a lot of people think dyslexia is, you know, you've switched your numbers, which occasionally does happen to me. And that's where I'm doing all the rechecks. My biggest issue was that the things would like to move on me. And so I would always confirm. I always have a backup. You always have your co-pilot. Now, co-pilot gunner is looking, you know, doing their mission, but you're always confirming things with each other. If you say a grid or if you're passing information, you know, they've got your back. And so I got really good at reading it, making sure, confirming it, and then sending it because I didn't want to make any mistakes. And when you're in the Apache, you can't make mistakes. It's a can't fail mission.
Yeah, he said, so Brian's out there, he said, this will make sense to you. 13F?
Yep, 13 Fox was my original MOS. Great.
Yeah, that's his first MOS.
Yeah.
And then Travis said, yes, the eyepiece and what the aircraft is moving.
Yep. And so that's a lot of the velocity vectors. You just really, it's kind of like take something new and you just start to adapt it into you. It's this piece of equipment that is incredibly advanced, but you just find the tricks to it. You feel it. It turns into something like when you're flying an Apache, you plug into the Apache. You become a part of it. You become an intricated system in it. And you learn how to feel it. You learn how to maneuver it. It speaks to you and you speak to it. And you become so familiar and aware of every single piece of symbology that you just, it becomes second habit. I will say, though, that it is very complex, and it's one of those areas that it took a lot of training. It took a lot of effort. For me, going through flight school, I literally wrote out the entire -10, which is our big, thick manuals. I would write them out verbatim, word by word, just so I could ingrain it. And then when I was done writing, I would go back and do it again because entering flight school, I was really afraid I was going to fail again. And failure is not an option for me at this point in my life. And so it's like, what do I have to do to overcome this challenge? I didn't know I was dyslexic. I didn't know I had a learning disability. So what do? Is I started improvising. I just started writing it all out. That seemed to work. So I stuck with it and I kept trying. It wasn't exactly time efficient because it took days. It felt like, constantly studying, but at the same time, it's how I got through. It's how I graduated top 10% of my class. And it's how I was able to select the Apache. That aircraft isn't given to everybody. So.
Okay. So I just have to reiterate, you have the perfect mindset and action that you established on your own. You were pretty much told you were lazy and incompetent as a child. And you decided, right? And you decide that that's not what you didn't want that outcome of what that label was. So you joined the military. And then again, you weren't, this is hard, I can't do this, and maybe take something like lower or easier. You're like, I'm going to figure it out. So huge lesson huge lesson that it doesn't matter what your disability is. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what you're told. If it's in your soul, in your heart, you figure out, it's your responsibility. You figure out how this is gonna work for you.
Absolutely. And that goes with anything, though. I'm currently a college student at the University of Washington, trying to prove everybody in high school and wrong, that I'm actually smart enough to graduate from a 4-year university. And it's been the same thing, though. I mean, after being out of school for 18 years, going back, that was a challenge. That was so hard. I'm in this whole new culture, a whole new environment. I felt like a fish out of the water. I'm in the civilian world. And for military individuals, transitioning to the civilian world after having that type of career is hard enough. But you rise to the challenge. You rise to what you want to be. Define who you are, define the path you want to go, and go for it. Because there's nothing that, in my personal opinion, from my own experience, there's nothing that is going to hold me back. There's nothing that I can't do. Yeah. I just have to find the right way to do it and continue to be curious, and then start perfecting my craft.
You know, and one of the things that really touched me, and I remember you telling me this story. I actually remember in Seattle where we were in your car in traffic, because that's apparently all there is in Seattle, FYI, during certain times. Like, I remember there was the city on the right and the mountains, and we were going, and you were talking about when your kidneys fail and you're mentally, you had prepared yourself to go back to active duty. You had, I want to talk about that, because this is like, it's another layer, another layer of who Joe really is. When I say who Joe, we're actually finding out the man within the man right now. Can you talk about that? Because like I said, I know exactly, it impacted me. Yeah.
Kidney failure was not expected. I got back from my 4th deployment from Afghanistan, getting ready. I'm a maintenance test pilot. I've got a career ahead of me. Everything is looking just golden. And out of the blue, August 11th, 2015, both kidneys fail. Nobody can tell me exactly why. I'm in the hospital in the emergency room. They're trying to figure out, do we filter the blood or don't we? And at that same time, basically the command came in and said, Joe, you're not going to be able to fly. We need people with kidneys that work. And hearing that was one of the most devastating moments of my life, because my identity was really in the Apache. Growing up, not very sure who I was in my educational or in my childhood, trying to figure that out. I put a lot of effort into this. This was my crowning achievement. This was me. I was the Apache, and I had a great team. And when somebody then tells you, nope, not going to happen anymore, for me, I reeled. I went backwards. I lost everything. Who was I? I was hopeless. I went into depression. I went into anxiety. I started questioning everything. I was angry. I was really angry. And it turned into a process. First thing I do is, I'm feeling all these different things, and I'm like so overwhelmed with the rapid changes in my life that I go to the doctors. I went to the mental health, which I recommend. I went to therapy, trying to figure out, why do I feel this way? But I also got put on a lot of antidepressants, and the antidepressants made me numb. And I started taking them. I'm not in any way, this is my story, I'm not in any way knocking them. But for me, that numbness just didn't work. I felt like I was losing a step. I felt my mental acuity degrading. It got me through a period of time, but at the same time, I became more depressed. So I started taking more, and it kind of turned into this negative cycle until finally, about a year later, July 6, 2016, I decided I didn't want to live anymore. And luckily, I did attempt to end my life, because, I thought I lost everything. I thought I wasn't anything.
Yeah, and you weren't feeling anything.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was numb inside. The doctors' prescriptions weren't working. My own methods weren't working, and I couldn't live in this hell in my mind anymore. And so, after attempting to end my life, after attempting, to just call it quits, which I don't recommend, when I was waking up in the hospital bed the next day, it was like, okay, at this point, I'm not going to live like this anymore. I'm either going to change, or I've got to figure something else out because I can't be in this state of depression. I can't be in this state of misery anymore because everything around, it's not just me that's being affected. It's my family. It's my kids. It's my friends and the joy and happiness I just wanted to achieve. Alcohol wasn't working. Everything was just falling around. And so for me, it was like, okay, what is wrong with my brain? Why isn't my brain working? What am I missing? What is going on here? And, it's still a process for me today because I still want to go back. I wish I was a pilot. At the same time, that's also why I ask, who am I? Because I'm redefining myself every day, and it's a journey. It's not an easy journey, but it's one of those journeys when you start to become curious about yourself, you can really have a lot of fun along the way, just enjoying the beauty around us. Our adventure in Seattle, it was a beautiful day. The mountains were just incredible. They were majestic. The clouds in the sky were those gray and fluffy. And yes, Seattle rains a lot, but there are also just some incredibly beautiful aspects to that rain. Yeah. And every day you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, trying to find that for me, it was that minuscule improvement in life. And it started off with really, first is how do I get more oxygen to my brain? So it was working out. It was actually starting to work out, get that oxygen to your brain. Then went to stimulation. What can I do to make my brain, rewire my brain to figure out what's going on or find patchwork around all of my struggles, my traumas from the past? And that's DBT therapy for me. And it's also educational. And then nutrition is I cleaned out my gut. I cleaned everything out that I could to get my body as healthy as possible so that I'm providing the brain with the best nutrition as I can. So.
This is why I say you are so badass. And, Travis said that he hears it a lot. It's like a common theme from the veterans that are on these antidepressants. Mm-hmm. But again, I also hear the common theme is when you start taking control, when you say, I have to do this. I can't rely on somebody else. I can't rely on the magic pill. I can't rely on these external factors. I have to do my work within myself. Just like how you became, an Apache pilot, and how now you're in school and you're going to achieve that, and how you're doing all the things. You've taken that control back, and that's who you are. You are a man of power.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. It is in discipline. And it's that discipline, it's applying the discipline in ways that have a productive impact in your life. I don't want to make my bed. I have no desire to make my bed. And I know that's the common phrase now used, but it's true. In basic training, it is beat into you to make your bed, mm-hmm. and if it's not, they're throwing it out the windows over at the Fort Sill Barracks and telling you to, clean up your mess and make your bed right next time. And that's true because it's that discipline, that understanding, okay, I don't want to make my bed. I can't stand it. But if I'm going to establish my day, this is my first victory. This is something I am committed to changing in my life that's going to represent the rest of my day. And it's going to represent how I'm moving forward. Today, I don't know what's going to happen. There are going to be some victories. There are going to be some challenges. But I have this one. Then the next one is working out. That's my second victory. And it's okay. I'm going to work out today because that's going to have an impact, a secondary impact on my life. I might not like it now, but I'm going to be healthier. I'm going to have more oxygen to my brain. And then the third one is making sure I'm eating that healthy breakfast, not filling myself up with the bacons and all that stuff. I have my protein shake. And those are the three victories that I rely on day in and day out that carry me to my successes throughout the rest of the day. And it's kind of like that launch pad that, okay, if this launch pad is stable, we're getting into space. But boy, when that starts to crumble and things start to fall apart there, it's a challenge. And so I'm just resolute on making sure that happens.
Yeah. I love that you take three basic things, because sometimes people make like these massive things that they have to accomplish. And, you can't always accomplish massive greatness every single day, but you can accomplish making your bed.
Yeah.
Like it takes 2 seconds. You can accomplish doing some form of exercise. You can accomplish, you know, getting that healthy meal. So those are actual tangible things that you can control and achieve. I love that you break it down to that basic. And I want to go, because the time's coming to an end, but I want to go over just a little bit about, you also give back a lot. You're working on you, and which I love. You take care of you. You challenge yourself in all these different ways. You've taken control of your life through all of it. And what I love is that you're always, okay, I have to say this one thing too that was on my heart and I forgot to say it. You'll always be the Apache pilot, because that's who's made you the man that I love and met. You know, if you weren't that, so it's always in you. It's just not an active piece of you, you know, but
yeah,
it's
and
you,
that's true.
this man. So
oh, thank you. And
you have a vision. You have a vision 2020 that you talk about that just a little bit, because it's basically you on steroids. That's what I think.
It really is. And Vision 2020 is, I've been surrounded by just incredible people. Mike Schindler is a man who was a mentor. Part of this overcoming challenges is there's other people who have overcome it. There are other people that have gone through this, what you're going through in some extent, and they have a path through. And so I recommend mentorship. And Mike became one of my big time mentors, and he really helped me find purpose. And in the military, we are taught, you know, mission, task, purpose. What's our mission? What's our task in this mission? What's the purpose of the mission? You know, how are we going to accomplish it? And that's the way I'm wired. I am a mission, task, purpose guy. And really looking at or learning from Mike as he helped redefine that. He's like, okay, Joe, what's your purpose? Really getting into the who I am. Why am I doing what I'm doing, rather than the how and the what? Right. And that's what we're doing over at Vision 2020 is we're really promoting the who, the why. So soldiers, veterans who are transitioning can start really understanding who they are as they progress forward in the civilian community. We are faced with many challenges, and a lot of veterans have similar stories, just different words. And so we really help them see that they are America's greatest asset, that the civilian companies that are out there really could benefit from the organizational skills that service members learn in basic training or their initial training, boot camp. We help them understand, you know, what civilian HR departments are looking at when they're hiring, and we help them really define what is a job that's going to fit, instead of just getting that job and then bouncing job to job, which I hear so often. It's actually finding that profession that's ingrained in here that's going to give you the satisfaction you're looking for in life. And so it's through webinars, it's through personal coaching, it's through we're getting different packets together. We're bringing on incredible individuals, from Medal of Honor winners to HR consultants that are looking for America's greatest asset and how we can best impact the community. So it's great opportunities. Love it. Check it out at vision2020today.com. And you know, the other thing is it's just opened up my world to people. And I am so thankful to have had the opportunity to meet you and so many others like you through it, because life's a challenge. Life is hard. Life has a lot of struggles, but when you start going through those struggles as a community, it's amazing what you can achieve.
Yeah, you're not alone. You know, you realize, like, I'm not alone. Again, different story, but same feeling, same situation, kind of stuff. And before I release you from back into the wild, I ask everybody, and I ask you to answer this with the first thing that comes to your mind. Don't give me some like thought out question. I know, or answer rather. But today, in this moment, Joe, what does love mean to you?
Love to me is forgiveness. It's understanding. It's empathy. It's understanding that that person has struggles behind their story as well. And those traumas, those struggles have defined them in different ways, and that they've had they probably created abnormal coping skills to get through it, just like I did. You know, I created so many abnormal coping skills to get through my traumas in deployment, my traumas in childhood, that it impacted. And so it's just approaching people with empathy and realizing there's a backstory to them too. I don't know what they're struggling with, but the reality is are my actions going to encourage? Are they going to bring up? Are they going to help that person realize that they matter in that moment? Or are my actions, going to be the other? And I choose to encourage. I choose to see the beauty in whoever I'm talking to, regardless of where they're at, because they're a human being. They've gone through the challenges. They've gone through the struggles. And for me, it's a better world when you can see the beauty in people rather than point out all the flaws. Because trust me, if I'm going to point out any flaws, I've got enough to point out myself.
Right. You don't need any more. We've got all of our own that we have to do.
Yeah.
Oh, Joe, thank you so much for sharing your heart and your wisdom and everything about you with me and everybody else today. And everybody that is listening and watching, just remember, love hard, love pure, and love proactive. And we will see you next time.
Thank you so much for having me. Amazing.
You are welcome. My fingers aren't working, so it's not. There we go. It's, well, that's just a little thing. Perfect.